Hello and welcome to the Hotshot Podcast. I'm Alex Richard. Um, Good to be back. There's a lot of good sports info and shit going on. Busy week. For me, heading back to college this weekend. Been good being home though. Not exactly looking forward to going back, but had to happen. Let's hop right into there's been a lot of crazy shit going on news-wise. If you see me look over to the left, I have my notes for everything I wanted to talk on and touch on, just so I made sure I didn't miss anything. Um, let's first start off with the coaching carousel that's been going on. Um, Damn, there's a lot of open jobs in college and in the NFL. So the big one is the big two, I would say, which is in the thumbnail of this, if you're watching the YouTube video. Nick Saban and Bill Belichick both retired. Belichick got fired. Nick Saban retires. Saban being gone is ridiculous. I have never been that big of an NCAA like college football guy, but you just got used to seeing Alabama's face. Like I watched the playoffs, and every year that I would tune in to watch those playoffs, you just got used to seeing Alabama in there. So it's kind of crazy to see Saban finally gone after a legendary career he had. I think it's 6 national championships. Just ridiculous. One of the all-time greats. Um, that's a really big game changer for college football for the rest of time. Like he's the recruiter. People go to Alabama to play with Nick Saban, and it's kind of wild to think of an era where he won't be there anymore. And we've already seen the impact. Like one of the top recruits, their wide receiver, decommitted. Like that's a big shakeup, and it gives these other schools, I think, a big chance to start contending even more. Um, to get these high end recruits, especially with how NIL money is working now. Like Nick Saban's a key reason you want to go to Bama, and if he's not there, then that's a pretty good reason to just choose another school that maybe if you want to win that national championship and like good roster. I don't know. It is rumored and heavily reported the Washington head coach is heading over. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna act like I know enough about him. He brought Washington to the championship, but how much of that was him and just a really stacked roster and Penix and a dude they are NFL players. They're sick and their defense wasn't good. So we shall see. Then his good buddy Bill Belichick was let go, mutually released, whatever, fired from the Pats. It's crazy, man. Since I started watching football like 7 years ago, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick ran the league, and that era of football is gone. Like that's not my childhood because I wasn't that big of a football fan back then. But it's still crazy to like truly realize that wow, Belichick's really gone. Pats missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. They were 4-13 this year. It makes sense. The offense was terrible. The defense was still good, but he's old, 70. Like maybe they just thought it was a good time to move on. Um, the new head coach they announced was Gerard Mayo. He was their inside linebacker coach. Now is the youngest NFL coach. He's only 37 years old, and it's a lot of pressure. And I would hate to be a black head coach in Boston following up the GOAT and the best era of maybe NFL football ever by a team. That's a lot on his plate. They have a top three pick, number three exactly. That's still a lot of pressure though. They got to nail that. Um, and there was already a report that like if they don't find a quarterback, he's already on the hot seat. He hasn't even played a game yet. Doesn't have a full team, and I don't know if that patch job is that enticing. To be honest, you get like the only benefit of that team, I think, is the defense is good, and that number three overall pick will most likely let you choose the quarterback of the future. Excuse me, that you want to have, which is big time. Like that's very important because that's the building piece, and we've already seen like young cute quarterbacks and their head coach. Like that duo can help a lot. Like Mike McDaniel and Tua connected like this, and then like Hurts and Sirianni, I would say. Um, and like Stroud and Marco in Texas on the Texans. I mean, so that's a benefit. But man, that offense is terrible. The O line isn't great. Zero weapons. Old ass running back Zeke and Ramondre. Ramondre's not that old, but he's running back old. So like that offense is terrible. You do have a chance to rebuild one of the greatest franchises of all time, but that's still tough because that team they have a lot of holes. And then the other big firing with Pete Carroll. He retires slash moves to a front office position. It's a weird one. The Seahawks were 9-8, disappointing season. Um, the defense just wasn't good. Bobby Wagner got a fucking Pro Bowl and All Pro though. Old ass is still sneaking on based on tackles and reputation. Even though if you watch him play, he's literally moving like a stick. It's unbelievable. I don't understand how he keeps making Pro Bowls. But PKL's gone. And that's big time because we don't know what that means for Gino, DK, Lockett. And that's a good job to have, man. You have young pieces on the defense. Depending on if you want to keep Gino, that's interesting. The wide receiving core is elite. You have Lockett, JSN, DK, obviously, previous mentioned, the back, Charbonnet, and K9 are both electric. It's just that defense is the question. And that's a lot. To repair, you're playing in a stacked division with the Niners and the Rams, but it's still a very good job. And that team is nowhere near bad. They're borderline a playoff team. So that's a pretty good job pickup, and I'm very interested to see who picked that up. And then the other fire that is like impactful, is Mike Vrabel. This was stupid. It was stupid. I was talking to my one of my buddies who's a Titans fan who really doesn't like the fire, and I'm in the same way. Like in the NFL, it's difficult to keep your job if you missed the playoffs 2 years in a row, which I understand. But this is one of those cases where it's like it's just not on the coach. The Titans went 6-5. It's their second year missing the playoffs. But prior to that, the 3 straight years before playoffs, all 3 years, including an AFC Championship run where they lost to like the Chiefs. Whatever. You can't blame Vrabel for them losing. This team is terrible. The offense is dreadful. My God. Other than DK and Henry, like what's the positive on this offense? Traylon Burks has been super disappointing. He's always hurt. Their wide receiver 3 is terrible. They're just a bad team. And like Tajay is he's stepping up because Henry's gone. Hopkins, I would be very surprised if he's on the Texans again next year. I mean, it's possible. I don't know. I don't think you can find a coach better than Vrabel. And it all just fell apart since they traded AJ Brown, which was idiotic in the first place. Like you're trading away a top, like an elite young receiver. Like that's just not gonna happen. I'll get to the AJ Brown shit, a little bit. But yeah, I think it was a stupid trade. Um, yeah, and then the other fire was Ron Rivera. Yeah, it should have been gone a long time ago. The Commanders slash Washington. That playoff berth in 2020 was the only reason he was hanging on. He hasn't been good in a long ass time. He's just old. It'll be good to get a new name up there. Also, Howell was just not the guy, which is disappointing because they put a lot of trust on him when they probably could have gotten someone younger. I don't know. Just tough for them. But going over the fires and all of the head coach openings, Will Brunson, reporter, writer, listed all of the opening jobs, and obviously the Patriots are on this list, but they've been taken off. So let's take a look at the most enticing jobs, the coaching opportunities that are open for this offseason. Obviously, the Seahawks is one. We've already mentioned DK is amazing. JSN really turned it on, and he showed brilliant games against the Eagles. Like he was lighting them up, and Lockett is old, but he's still like one of the most consistent wide receivers in the NFL. Then you on defense, you have Devin Witherspoon, who is one of the best young corners and just corners overall, and a front runner for rookie of the year. And then you can put hopefully maybe if you have good coaching and you just bank like there's a potential on Reek Woolen having a bounce back year after being a Pro Bowler and then getting benched this year. So there's some young weapons on that team, and they're a very good roster. And like I said, they're a borderline a playoff team. So they have got to be in that contention of like that's probably the best job available. Then Commanders, he has listed as 2. I may have them lower. He has the Commanders at 2 and the Falcons at 4. Let me just say why. The Commanders defense, they trade away 2 of their best young edge rushers. I don't like that really, especially yeah. I just not a fan. Montez Sweat has been sick in Chicago. Chase Young has been like nothing in San Fran, but I don't really like it. So I'd move them down. So let's just talk about my two would be the Falcons. This team is sick, man. The defense isn't that bad. You have some pieces. You don't have like any superpower that like Theo Ash would like to say and Blaine Kirk. Shout out to Stay Hot. But they don't have any superpowers, anything like that. But I think like that offense is incredible. Bijan, Algier are like great 1-2 punch. And if you just like give Bijan the ball more, and then you should just get a quarterback to control Drake London and Kyle pitch the ball more. That team is sick. Like that offense can be dope and like just some AJ Terrell is for me like a top 10, 15 corner in the NFL. And Jesse Bates is good. He was all pro this year. So like you have pieces there, and I think that's a fucking sick job to have. Um, so that would be my number two. Number three, yeah, it's the Chargers. Um, my explanation on this is a lot less than any of the other one. You get the opportunity to coach Justin Herbert, a franchise quarterback, top five in the NFL. That's sick, man. That's so dope. Herbert's awesome. He is electric. He's incredible arm. You just got to get some talent around him, and like that's why you could argue the Chargers would be lower because they're in cap hell. They have a lot of bad players on this team, if we're being honest. But man, Herbert, the potential to have Herbert and put a good team around Herbert and Keenan Allen still has some juice and probably still will have some juice next year. You got to worry about Eckler because you don't really have a running back one because Eckler was terrible this year. And Quentin Johnson is bad. But like, I like what they have there. I like Herbert. That's really it. I don't like what they have. I like Herbert. Then I do Commanders. Number two pick. You get a quarterback. That's sick. Um, and it's always cool to be able to choose your guy as the head coach. I mean, like, yeah. And Terry McLaurin's there. You have some like the cornerbacks are terrible, so you need to rebuild that room. The secondary isn't great. The defense needs a lot of work, especially edge rushers when you trade away your top two. The O line is bad. Howell got sacked the most out of anyone in the league. Actually, it might have been second to Bryce Young, who we're talking about in a bit. You just need a lot of work, but like number two pick just rises you up there. Then five, I have the Raiders. I'm pretty sure AP is just gonna be back. I don't really have a lot to say about this. The team is mid. You could probably make some changes to make them not mid. Max Crosby's sick. Debate. I don't know if Devonta Adams is gonna be there next year, and they need a quarterback. So I don't know. I don't know. Um, he has the Paytons over the Titans. I would have the Titans. I think I like their roster more. I feel like they're more. I don't know, man. The Patriots are probably higher because they have the number three pick, and that's it. But both the Patriots and Titans are terrible. They don't have weapons, either team. The defense, actually, the Patriots defense is better, so the Patriots would be higher. And then Titans, Levis has potential. I mean, I don't know how good he's gonna be, but he could be something, right? And that would be a positive. If Levis turns out, then you have a guy these that probably should have been a first round pick. And then like, yeah, that's cool. And then last is the Panthers. The Panthers are terrible. They're a bad team. They're poorly run, and the only positive on that team is Brian Burns. Um, Bryce Young is cool. I think Bryce Young showed a lot of potential last year, and I think he has a chance to be a very good NFL quarterback. But they don't have a first round pick. The receivers are terrible. Ceiling got over 1,000 yards, but that shit doesn't mean anything, man. Bryce Young was in hell trying to avoid pressure the entire game. The defense really isn't that bad. Like J.C. Horn is sick. Brian Burns is sick. Um, Derek Brown, I believe his name is, the D tackle, is sick. Like they have some pieces. Chan is sick, but it's just like man, the offense they just don't have like the resources to get a wide receiver, and like they just like suck at nailing these like late day picks. Um, Pepper should be fired. So I don't know. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough in Carolina. That's a job that but like there's so many big coaching names that could be looking to coach again. Like maybe they get Ron Rivera. That's like possible. But then you have like Harbaugh coming out of Michigan, who's probably trying to escape the NCAA, trying to fuck him over after winning a national championship and potentially stealing signs. And then like Pete Carroll, I mean he like the Chargers job could be interesting to him. Belichick can go wherever he wants, I imagine. Mike Vrabel is gonna get a lot of attention. I don't know where he goes. I don't know. There's a lot of, and then like OC, you gotta feel for Ben Johnson. He was supposed like the Lions OC, who was supposed to be like the number one guy coming into this like, oh, I'm looking for a new head coach. And then all of a sudden they just decide to fire all of these big name coaches, and Ben Johnson's just like, yo, what the fuck? I was the guy. And he'll get a good job. He'll probably go to like he I'd be very interesting to see him scheme up a offense for the Falcons. I think that would be really interesting what he could do with Bijan or and whoever. And they should I think I think it would be sick if they trade for Justin Fields. I think him, Bijan, like you give him a real chance in an offense with way more weapons than Chicago. They take Caleb Williams, which they should do with the number one pick. It shouldn't be a debate. But I think the Falcons should definitely trade for Fields. I think it'd be sick. And I think Ben Johnson could scheme up an awesome offense for them. And I think Justin Fields really deserves the chance of being an elite quarterback in a true system with a good head coach that can scheme him up an offense with weapons. I think it'd be dope. And I think the Bears could be, I mean, not the Bears. The Bears would be better off. And I think Justin Fields and the Falcons would be sick because you can't run back. You just can't run back with the situation you had last year. It just isn't gonna work. Before we get into the NFL, I mean the NBA, I want to touch on the playoffs. So I'm in a bracket with a couple of my buddies about playoff pictures for the first round. So let's talk about those matchups. So obviously the Ravens are the one seed. Then it's Bills Steelers. Bills are gonna smoke them. That should be the annual blowout. You have to have one. Chiefs Miami is crazy. It's supposed to be negative 30 degrees and it's like dangerous weather, and they're telling everyone like, yo, cover up everything. Like, no, nothing should be out in the open. Negative 30 degrees is fucking ridiculous to be playing football. I don't know how that game isn't getting moved somewhere else. Like, that's so crazy to me. Like normally in normal weather, I think Miami would have the Chiefs, and I think like I don't know. I just don't trust those wide receivers. But I wonder how many drops, even extra drops, the Chiefs are gonna have because it's so fucking cold. That's gonna be a brutal game to watch. I think it may be really boring. I think it may be ground and pound heavy. Because I can't imagine trying to catch a ball where your hands are fucking freezing in gloves at negative 30 degrees. I at this point, I think the Chiefs get it done now with the weather, but that's gonna be a crazy game to watch. And then what else? What's the other big game? Oh, Texans Browns. I think CJ Stroud is sick. I picked the Browns. I think Flacco has a good day against the Texans D, and I don't know if Stroud has enough juice with the poor weapons that he has with Noah Brown and Tank Dell both being out, and it's just Nico Collins and the O line isn't great against that Browns front and the incredible Browns defense. I think I left CJ Stroud, but I just don't think he has enough to get it done. And I think that's all of the AFC. NFC, Niners are the one seed. Then, what do you got? Oh, Stafford makes his return to Detroit. It's so interesting seeing Lions fans be like, yo, no shot. No, don't wear Stafford jerseys. He's an enemy now. Like, grow up, man. He did so much for your franchise and you're getting pissed about him. Pissed at him for that when your fans are wearing a jersey. Like, come on. Really? First home game in 30 years. Stafford never did that, I guess. But Kyron Williams has been sick, all pro second team, but the Lions run defense is sick. But I don't know if they're gonna be able to stop Stafford, Cup, and Puka through the air. So I'm leaning Rams. Cowboys Packers I think is sick. Um Packers on Green Bay. And I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna change, honestly. Dak is sick. CD's sick. I mean, like the Cowboys defense is just better than the Packers defense, and the Cowboys offense is better than Packers offense. So, and their special teams is better. So this should just be a Cowboys win. And then AJ Brown has been pissing me off, man. He deleted all of his posts about the Eagles on Instagram, which is like whatever. Who cares? He holds a player only meeting apparently, and then he doesn't show up to practice on the day I'm recording this, which is 1/12/2024. He doesn't show up to practice. And they play the Bucks, and the Eagles have been playing terrible, and he got hurt last game. The Eagles are a mess, man. They're just not good anymore, and it's really disappointing how terrible they've been this past 6 games. Sirianni, I didn't even mention, but he's probably a coach that's on the way out. And fucking he should be, man. They've been so disappointing. The offense looks terrible. The defense is one of the worst in the league. And it would not surprise me at all, honestly, if they just lose to the Bucks and Baker tears them up. Stay Hot Podcast mentioned them before. Mentioned how it's very similar to how Baker brought the Browns into beating that Steelers team who started off super hot and then just lost a couple games. That's what the Eagles are, man. They're terrible. They're so bad at football this year. It's so depressing to watch. I mean, like you watch their games and you just have no hope throughout like all of it. Like I watched that Giants game, I'm laying in my bed, and like Andrew gets hurt without Devontae Smith, who got hurt on a wide receiver screen, by the way. It's just like, God, why am I still watching this team play? I just shut it off. It's over for them. The season's over. They will probably lose to the Buccaneers. Ugh. But yeah, I don't know. It's so frustrating as an Eagles fan to watch the Eagles like play competent football because they don't have the time and they should be because our offense is so much more stacked. It's just ridiculous how much of a letdown they have been. So sad. But yeah, those are the playoff picks, man. I don't know. It's just sad. It's gonna be a really sick playoff though. It's tough as an Eagles fan because you don't really know how many games they're gonna win if they're gonna win any, to be honest. But I like their team and I like how I don't know, man. Like they could go on a run, and there's a lot of teams in this picture that can go on a run. Like if Flacco ball, the Browns could go on a run. I don't know if they beat the Ravens, but the Browns could easily go on a run. Miami, who was a technically a low seed, easily go on a run. Chiefs, Mahomes. Like Mahomes can always go on a run. It's like there's so many teams I didn't even mention. Like I easily think the Rams could go on a run. And like I don't know about the Packers, but like the Cowboys could go on a run if they're playing high level football. It's gonna be a really interesting playoffs. But yeah, that's all I got for NFL. Um, there's not much else going on. So we're gonna take a quick break and then we are going to talk about all of the NBA games and any NBA trade rumors that happened yesterday and this morning. Getting into the NBA games from last yesterday and last night. The first game was in Paris. Who was in Paris? The Cavs beat the Nets 111-102. Max Juice left the game early, and this was really just one of those games where it was just like, yo, Mitchell, come on, get on it. Get on your high horse and carry this shit. And that's exactly what he did. He had 45 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, the most points ever scored in a France game, which doesn't really mean much because there haven't been that many regular season games. But the crazy stat is he outscored the Nets starters 45-44, which is ridiculous. He shot 40 shots, which is hilarious. But it was one of those games where he kind of needed to. The rest of the Cavs offense didn't do much. And yeah, it's just like when the Cavs are hobbled like this, it's really tough for them to win a lot of these games. And when JB Bickerstaff decides not to play Craig Porter Jr. for some reason in these games, it's like pretty obvious that it's going to be like one of those Mitchell ball in his hands every possession. Please do something other than if your name isn't Karis LeVert. And especially in a game where it's like no Max Juice, he goes out early. He played like maybe 5 or 6 minutes, then he's out. Then it's like, I guess Mitchell, you can shoot 40 shots and it's fine. There were reports that the Heat are interested. Fuck off, dude. I'm like at the point where you have all these rumors the Knicks want him. The Heat want him. I wouldn't be surprised if Mitchell just stays a Cav and he doesn't get moved. He from everything I've heard, he kind of likes it here. He was pumped to get traded here. Last year was a disappointment, and this year's been injury riddled. But it's not like he's a free agent after next year. Like there's still another year to get this extension done, and there really shouldn't be any rush by the Cleveland front office. You have time, and just I I think the Cavs can easily be. Let me restate that. When the Cavs are healthy, they can beat anyone. They have the seventh easiest schedule remaining in the entire season. Mitchell has been playing like an MVP. You saw it in the last game against Paris, in Paris against the Nets. He's been ridiculous. And then you have two borderline all-star players and Darius Garland, Evan Mobley back. Jared Allen has been playing for incredible. We'll have to see how they play him and Mobley play when they're back together. But they've been so good, and this is the most spacing a Cavs team has had since LeBron left. Max Strus has been great. Sam Merrill should be getting minutes. LeVert off the bench. Okoro has been a great perimeter defender. This Cavs team is serious, and I think they can beat anyone. And it wouldn't surprise me if they make a big run. They're really deep, surprisingly more deep than I thought during the during the preseason. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they make like this big playoff run if they can stay healthy and get healthy. That's the big thing. They just haven't been healthy this entire year. For the Nets, I don't know, man. It's still interesting they're trying to build around Mikal. He's just not a number one, I don't think. He would be a great number two when we saw what he can do as a three. And he won't go back to being a three again, I don't think. But I don't think he's a number one guy on a team that is trying to contend. This team just has like a whole bunch of 3D wings. And Cam Thomas is the only shot creator that I trust. Dinwiddie's fine. But they just have like a lot of, oh, he's fine. Oh, he's fine. And then Mikal is like good, but he's not like number one good. So I don't know. They're mid. And then the other game, I was really excited to watch Celtics Bucks. I was so pumped. And then that shit just, man, what a letdown. I think it's awesome that Malik Beasley was terrible for the Lakers and now is great for the Bucks. He had 10 in the first half. I think he finished with 17. He has played perfect next to Giannis and Dame. He's not a good defender still, and he's still supposed to guard the best players, but I don't know. It's just fun. I love that Lakers thing of like, of course he plays good when they leave. Yeah, man, it's a lot of pressure to play in LA, and that shit happens a lot. So maybe you gotta think like it's just common. Um, let's talk about the Bucks before we talk to the Celtics. Why they lost this game. Giannis, he's just sick, man. He is being underrated and underlooked for this. I feel like he should be very highly talked about in this MVP conversation, and I think maybe the lead in it, him or Shea. I think, Jokic is there too, but he had 18 first half points. He cooked, man. He's just so elite. He had a Dirk fade, like a fadeaway one legger, and I was like, "What the fuck? I've never seen you. What, like you acting different." And then my one of my favorite things about Giannis is he's a really underrated passer, and he does these passes where he'll drive and he'll kick and throw behind his head to like the corner, and that shit's so impressive. He had one to Bobby Porter, Jr., who was incredible in this game, by the way. But yeah, I just really like how he plays basketball. He's sick. Um, and then Dame, uh, yeah, he's a very underrated driver. That's one of my key takeaways. Like the jumper is obviously like one of the best of all time, but it doesn't really get talked about how good he is at slashing and finishing. Like he attacks these pick and rolls, and he had one like crazy. He like flipped it up with the left hand and then went over Porzingis, and I was like, damn, Dame, okay. But yeah, the Bucks are sick. They're probably my favorite to come out of the East still. I like the Celtics a lot too. The Celtics, whatever, man. Like this game doesn't matter. They just beat the Timberwolves the night before. They're coming off a game where all of their starters played 40 minutes. Like they rested all of them in the second half, which is like disappointing for a fan, but it's understandable. They just couldn't make shots. They shot 32% from the field in the first half. They were 1 of 16 from three. Pretty terrible. You're not going to win that many games, especially when you're a team like the Celtics who are so much of live and die by the three-pointer. And they also had 7 bench points, which is pretty terrible. That was in the first half. They scored a lot more because all of their bench played in the second half. But there were reports that the Celtics are looking for more depth. Yeah, I would too. Like, shout out to O'Shea Brissett though, because he had that nasty behind the dunk, behind the back, with cross Dame, which made him fall, and then that massive poster. But like the bench is not that great. The starting five is like arguably one of the top starting lineups in the entire league. But like there's better options off the bench than Pritchard, Hauser, and Old Horford, O'Shea Brissett, and Luke Cornett. Like you can for sure do better than that. And they probably will. And that's what will make this team like I think electric is when you have a better six man and Horford's just old. And like Hauser is good. I knew he was gonna be sniper from Virginia when he got like just watching him in college, he was sick. And Pritchard's fine. Just like a small offensive minded guard, which is like you don't really need. You just need like more 3-and-D guys, I think. But I don't know. The Celtics this game doesn't really make me feel good about the Celtics. More just makes me feel like very good about the Bucks and how strong they are. Um the other game, which was another disappointing like blowout it was a lot of blowouts last night. Um, Suns Lakers. This was a Devin Booker masterclass to start. It's 16 points in the first quarter. He shot 6 for 10. He is the best in the league. I think maybe him and Shea at getting and one fadeaways. He had a nasty one at Cam Reddish, and then he did another one later on in the game against Max Christie. Booker is nice, and when the Suns play like this, it's just impossible to stop them. Booker had 23 in the first half, 16 in the first quarter. Then in the third quarter, Beal scored 20. And what's really interesting about the Suns is they've been really good at figuring out how to put all three of them on the court at the same time and everyone gets shots. KD has always been a perfect guy to play with other superstars because he's so unselfish and he will still get his shots no matter what. But one thing they were doing that really like fucked with the Lakers, I would say, is they were running a KD ball handler with Beal pick and roll, and they just find Beal at the foul line, and he had so many like short mid range jumpers, and I think they were open because they were playing like they doubled KD off the pick, and Beal just wide open for those pull ups, or just like he's so deep inside the paint where he can just find somebody else, and it's thick. I really like how especially in this game, how they got Beal so involved in the game. And it also just doesn't get talked enough about how good KD has been since tearing his fucking Achilles. Like that's an injury that just has consistently fucked everyone else who has had that. Like, like Kobe just wasn't the same, and it's like anyone who tears their Achilles just doesn't bounce back and isn't just as good. And KD has just been the most consistent elite NBA player. Like you can't have him out of your top 10 like before the Achilles and then still after. Like obviously he took a lot of time to recover and stuff like that. But man, he has been electric, and I feel like that's like one of the most in crazy and like impressive things about his career is how elite he still has been since tearing that Achilles. Um, this game, I don't know, man. Lakers are just not that good. They have a perimeter shot creator problem. Austin Reeves I like a lot. D'Lo is just not that guy anymore. And Braun he was bad this game, I think, especially in the first half. He had 8 points on 2 for 8 shooting. 80 wasn't that great either. He started off rough. He's aggressive. He just was missing today, which just happens with 80. Like he's been great this year, but like every year you just not every year, but every season there's gonna be some games where 80 just doesn't show up and has bad games. But I feel like the Lakers are weird because they have 3-point shooters, but their spacing still feels terrible. Like every game I watch, I feel like 80's in a post up, and the paint is just so packed. Even though they have these guys that like have the reputation of being shooters. Like you would think if you ran out a lineup of Braun and AD at the 4 and 5, you would be able to surround them with like some sick shooters. But they still are able to pack the paint so much on those two guys, and their 3 point shooters aren't able to capitalize. It's just interesting. They just need more people that can shoot. And honestly, I think if the Suns and Lakers flop some of their role players, both teams would benefit. I feel like the Suns have too many on ball creators, and the Lakers just have too many good defenders slash 3-and-D wings. I feel like if you just like if Eric Gordon went to the Lakers, I feel like he would be a very good help of just like a sharpshooting guy who can take people off the bounce a little bit, you know? And I think like Jared Vanderbilt would be sick as like you immediately slide him in the starting lineup on the Suns, and that's like a big wing defender who can rebound. I think that would help them a lot. Um, I did like what Jackson Hayes gave the Lakers. He played some good minutes, couple big lobs. He got yammed on by Josh Okogie though, which was disgusting. Well, I don't know. Also Braun's poor performance could also be he tweaked his ankle early on in the second quarter. It wasn't like anything crazy, but yeah. Also, it's so cool to see Bol playing like meaningful basketball. Like I truly think that he is a crazy unicorn of a player, and he just never got the chance. They just didn't play him in Orlando that much, and he got drafted to Denver where he fell a lot. He got drafted in the second round, and I just didn't play him. But Bobo's sick, man. He's an incredible player, and he's crazy tall and long, AO, and he can just do everything on the basketball court. It's so sick watching Bobo play basketball. Um, but yeah, and then there were two other games. The Thunder fucked the Trailblazers 139-77. Yikes. I did not watch this game, I'm gonna be honest. I like looked at the scoreboard and the Thunder were already up by like 50 at halftime. It wasn't that extreme. It wasn't during the third quarter. But I watched the highlights. Um Everyone in the Thunder is really good, and they should be considered like legitimately like a chance to win the West. Um yeah, they're kind of sick, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. They're dope. I also think the Trailblazers, this game doesn't matter. They should try to be bad. It sucks because like all these teams are bad, like the Pistons. They're being bad in a mid draft class. Like there's not like those top three guys consensus that everyone's like, yo, let's go after these three. They're like being bad for like like there isn't a consensus like, yo, that guy will be good. I feel like this is the least talked about draft class of the past like 5 years at least. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, he who should not be named, who may or may not have done something with an underage girl, had a triple double, which was impressive. He had some dimes in this game, even though we're not supposed to talk about him. He's a very good NBA player, and he was diming up. Shea was super efficient. J Dub was super efficient, and Chet is just thick. And then the other game, my favorite player of all time, Kyrie Irving, cooked the Knicks. He had 44 and 10. This was another game that I didn't watch and I didn't pay that much attention to because the Knicks were up 20. I mean, the Mavs were up 20 at one point. And I was just like, okay, the Mavs got it. Without Luca, by the way. So it's a big win for them. But yeah, uh, yeah, the Knicks came back. Brunson's good. Randall's good. There was a new report that the Knicks would be are open to trading Julius Randle, which is like, who could you reasonably get for Julius Randle who is better than Julius Randle? Like, if we're being real, like Randle's a very good NBA player. I don't know. I feel like Randle is both underrated and overrated at the same time, which you would think would make him properly rated, but he's definitely not. But like, what do you get for him that makes the Knicks like true contenders? I don't know. Um, there was something else I saw was really interesting. Oh, Kyrie. Um, so this might be a shocker to people because nobody's talking about it. I fucking saw some crazy disrespect on Twitter saying Derek White is better than Kyrie Irving right now. Last 5 games, Kyrie's averaging 33, 7, and 5. That's unbelievable as a second option. Kyrie's been like heavily disrespected, and it's crazy. And I think a lot of it is political. All of his stuff that he said and all the stupid shit he says and how much controversy he has. But like you can't disrespect how good of a basketball player he is. He's easily like a top 20 player in the NBA still. And like the Derek White All-Star agenda shouldn't be a thing and it should be dead and buried. It shouldn't be a thing. But man, like the Kyrie disrespect, I just can't take it. It's so annoying, so obnoxious. Like if you just watch him play, you know he's better than Derek White. But yeah. Other NBA news. I think the Clippers are sick. I think the Clippers could. I say this every year. I just want to be a believer in them. I just love them. I really like the way their roster is built, and I really like Paul George. But I think they're sick this year, man. Harden as a third option moves me. It moves me a lot, man. Him not having to do as much and less pressure on him as a basketball player. That sounds sick. I think he could be dope without having to do a lot. That like legitimately that sounds so cool. And then like, I don't know, like Paul George is awesome. Kawhi's been healthy. Russ has been good off the bench. Norman Powell is always a six man of the year contender. Like the Clippers are dope, and the Clippers are legit contenders this year, and they could easily make it out of the West. And they have the defensive guys to contend with anyone in the East too. I mean, like obviously the Celtics and um the Bucks would be an issue, but I think they could win a championship this year, man. The Nuggets are also good. They just like the Nuggets like losing to bad teams. I don't know why that is, but they'll just like get shit on by the Jazz some days, and it's like I know you're serious because you won a championship and your team's basically the same. It's like what's going on there? I also don't. I think the Pacers are weird. They're cool. Tyrese is nice, but like the rest of their team is just like so young and inconsistent. Just like difficult to know if you're like truly taking them serious or not. It's interesting. But yeah, I want to like, what was I gonna say? Oh, college basketball was, um, because I mentioned like draft players and who it will probably get like drafted. Um, it's tough to like just think about this upcoming draft class and see like you can't just like tune into these blue bloods and see like top guys like Rob Dillingham for Kentucky. Like Kentucky, if you want to watch like good players, like good young players. I don't know how early any of them are actually going to go this year. It's weird. Um, it's just weird. It's a weird year for college basketball because a lot of the teams are just like older. I feel like NIL money hitting like trucks. Like Duke returned 4 starters last year from this year. It's like wow, that never happens. Like three of their starting freshmen came back, and it's like that, huh? Something's happening here that's different. And I don't know if I like it. I do because like I'm a Duke fan. I like seeing like continuity overall in basketball. It's just very interesting to watch. Um oh, there we go. The other team I wanted to talk about is I talked about them in the last podcast. The Warriors. They've continued their slide to being under 500. Um yeah, Clay, it's it's truly heartbreaking to me to have to watch the Clay Thompson fall off of how he's just like you see Steph in an interview after the game is like, yeah, the fans should be booing us, and Clay's like, well, I don't care if the fans boo me. What am I supposed to do? Lose sleep about it? Yeah, dude, you're playing terrible. You got to shoot better, and I think it's time the Warriors move on. Like you can't extend this guy. He's just like lost all of his aura, and he's so low on his confidence, and it's like I'm a Cavs fan, and I've been through the Warriors' mud hole of their prime. but it's still sad to see like you're watching a player just like fall out of his prime and lose it like it's just a tough watch. Like I like Clay a lot, but he's just not the same player as he used to be, and it's time to move on. Um, Draymond is coming back. That's funny. He punched a guy and got suspended. Now he's just practicing again. That's his second time punching someone, which is sick. To just come back and be like, "Yo," like Draymond's interview on his podcast would be like, "I almost retired, and Adam Silver begged me not to." Like Jesus Christ, dude! They asked you to stop hitting people on the court, and you were like, "You know what? I'm just gonna retire. I can't do that shit. What do you want? What do you want from me? You want me to just play basketball?" Like he said, I had a conversation with Steve Kerr and we were just crying. It's like, dude, just stop hitting people. Just play basketball like a normal guy and all of this will be fine. It's really not that hard. It's so ridiculous. And and it's like he hasn't gotten this incredible treatment from the NBA beforehand anyway. Like he hasn't had the benefit of doubt on so many of these occasions of how much crazy shit he can get away with without even text or suspensions in the first place. And now he does these unbelievable actions, and all of a sudden he's shocked and appalled by the punishment that he's been given. It's like, no, dude, you've been acting insane, so we're gonna treat you like you're insane. That's just kind of what happens, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like it's just so weird. It's just so weird. The way is like I mentioned it before. I'm just gonna rehash a little bit of my thing. They're just too old and too young at the same time, and they just can't balance it. And it's kind of time to give it up. Um, while I'm here, and I want to obviously fill some more time, and I took notes, but I just don't have enough. I want to look at NBA standings and see the other teams that are somewhat disappointing. Let's see. Oh, the Raptors suck. They should trade Pascal. Um, the Kings were rumored. I think that would have been dope. I think the Warriors should also try to get him because I think that would also be dope. Oh, the last podcast I made was about Ja coming back, and being like, "Yo, he's back. The Grizzlies will make the playoffs." Well, Ja's hurt and their season's over, and Marcus Smart is also sidelined with a finger. So yeah, it'll be cool for them to add a young guy. Cause that team is just not good. They're at the bottom of the West right now. Not the bottom, but they're only better than the Spurs and the Trailblazers. So it'll be cool for them to, get a young guy. Like it just sucks, man. The Josh thing sucks. I just wish they wouldn't have suspended him for as long. Like, I will be pissed if Draymond comes back for like before the 25 game period that he's missed before Ja. Like like man, Ja didn't do anything illegal and they suspended him 25 games. If they fucking let Draymond come back and for like 20 after punching a dude on the court and also choking a guy out in the same season, like come on, Adam Silver, what are we doing? It's just so ridiculous. Just so stupid. Um, who else are the teams underperforming? Let's see. Oh, well, the Pistons have 3 wins. They're pretty terrible. Um, they need to. It's. I think it's more of a front office thing than a player thing. If you like watch games and you know who's there, it's like, yeah, they obviously have NBA players and they have some good pieces. Just like the front office is just terrible. They don't draft well. Like Kate is nice. Ivy, I think, can be nice. It's just like, God damn, man. They're so terrible. And it's just I don't know, man. You like Marvin Bagley's been playing good, but I just like don't play him sometimes. So James Wiseman can play. Who's like that's just that ship has been failed for a while, man. It's just they're a cursed. Like they're the. Here's my analogy. The so the Carolina Panthers are the Detroit Pistons of the NFL. You know what I mean? Just like cursed by terrible front office work. You have this young guy who you truly believe in Cade, who has been putting up fucking amazing performances in the NBA at least, and he's been dealing and balling, he's like putting up 30 bombs, and they're still losing. And then in the NFL, you have Bryce, who's trying his best and has shown flashes, but he just doesn't have time to do anything. He's getting fucking mauled by everyone and sacked, and his receivers can't create separation, and it's all because the front office just can't put good pieces around either player. It's terrible, and they've just been terrible, and they're going to continue to be terrible unless something happens in the front office. Please, Panthers and Pistons, just fire everyone. Keep Cade and Bryce. That's it. That's all you need to do. Just please reset. Please reset. It's so brutal. It's unbelievable. I man, I, I it's just tough, tough watches. Both of those teams. Um. Oh, the other trade room I wanted to talk about was Dejounte Murray. He was interested is interested by the Lakers. Which is interesting. The report said the Lakers want a good point, a defender. The funny thing is, Derek White. I mean, not Derek White. Wow, I'm just thinking about good defenders. Dejounte Murray is not that like guy anymore. He's not an all defender, all defense level player anymore. And it sucks because Trae Young has been so good this year, offensively and surprisingly defensively. Trae Young is at the level of like everyone thought Steph was a bad defender, and then all of a sudden Steph turned into like a decently or slash pretty good defender. Trae Young is at that point in his career where like there's like highlight tapes of Trae Young performing very good defense in the clutch. And they're very similar players. They've had a very similar career arc. It's just that like Trae's supporting cast has just been terrible. Like Trae, like ESPN and all these apps will set up like Trae Young in the start bench cup with like Tyrese and Shea. And it's like it's just because Trae doesn't win. He hasn't won. And it's not his fault. He's doing his best. He's putting up career numbers. He's probably like I haven't looked, but I would be willing to bet it'd be safe to add to like guess he's averaging 27 and 11. And like the Hawks have 15 wins. It's just like DeJounte hasn't been that good. The rest of their supporting cast is not that good. Like the Lakers should be trying to get Trae Young, not DeJounte Murray. Man, like I've been a Trae supporter since he was getting criticized at Oklahoma because he was sick at Oklahoma. He was sick in the tournament. He started off his rookie year bad, but then he turned around and was sick. And then he brought them to the playoffs. He gets hurt, and they lose to Milwaukee. And I seriously think they had a chance at beating Milwaukee that year if Trae stays healthy. And like he's just such a good and fun NBA player to watch. And people just hate on him for some reason, even though don't we want good young players that are like good and like have rivalries with these franchises like the Knicks? Don't we want these young players to be good so we have something for the league when we have like the Brons and the Katie's and Steph retire? Like we need the next phase of the league. We need it. It needs to happen. Like we got to realize that Bron doesn't have that many years left. KD don't have that many years left. Steph doesn't either. Harden, Russ. Like I was talking about the era of football. That is my era of basketball, of watching these guys in their prime. And we're at the point where those guys are leaving, man. Like we got to have people that can step up and be marketable. And like I love Jokic. He's not marketable at the face of the league. You know who's marketable? Like Shea. Shea is marketable. I think Giannis is marketable. But it's also an NFL, not an NFL, an NBA marketing standpoint where they just don't put the effort into making these young guys stars. Tyrese Halliburton, he's been making his way up, and it's a lot of it is marketing, and a lot of it is the in-season tournament. He put on fucking great performance on this big team, on this big stage. I mean, and people are like, now I see it. He like beat some good teams in the in-season tournament, brought him to the finals. Even though we didn't lose, he's just a fun player to watch. They just don't put that much marketing for Trae Young. Trae Young is on the level of he's electric on the offensive end. He's not that good of a defender, but neither is Tyrese. But he's just fun to watch. But for some reason, people just hate Trae Young for it. It doesn't really make that much sense to me. Like, and they won't market Ja because Ja's too problematic in their eyes, which is, I suppose, fair. And Jokic is just he's sick and he is marketable because he's funny and he's good at basketball, but he just doesn't care enough, I don't think. So it's tough. It's really tough. They're it's gonna be interesting to see who they try to make the next face, the next LeBron, the next Steph. Because like statistics show, I listening to the old man in the three when they had JJ Redick, when they had Richard Jefferson and Tim Legler on, and they were talking about how when LeBron left the East, the national televised games, they were able. So when LeBron in the East, that means um his team played the earlier games, and then they would have the runoff of after they tuned in to see LeBron. That viewership runoff would continue into that next matchup that were later on, like the Western Conference matchup, for example. But when he left to go to the West, his games, his home games at least, were the 10 o'clock games. So they couldn't have that runoff. So what they would do instead is they would have LeBron play the Eastern Conference teams so they could still have that runoff. And you still have people that will turn into these late games, especially when LeBron plays or when LeBron has a cool matchup, like when it's LeBron versus KD, which has happened twice this year, which is sick. But like that, those matchups will happen for what? Maybe 3 more years, 4 more years max. Like I don't know how much longer you're going to be able to have the benefit of like LeBron can have that runoff against these good teams, and then people will tune in to watch them. You know, like that's tough. That's a really tough thing. And that's the benefit of having these faces of the league guys that everybody likes, like Steph and Braun and KD. People tune in to watch them specifically. Like Steph was incredible. He is so fun to watch that people literally like when they shoot from deep, every kid will be like, "Oh, Curry!" Like he is influential, and he has reached outside of just like the common basketball nerd fan. Like I'm sure like people don't know. There's a lot of people that like the good NFL players, not good NFL, good NBA players that the common public just don't know. But everybody knows LeBron. Everybody knows Curry. Like, who is that next guy that will be that mainstream? And that's a conversation for a lot of sports. But the NFL got lucky that Mahomes is so good because that's their guy and he's so young. The NBA just, I don't think they have a guy yet that we trust that much to be that marketable to be the next guy. Because I think Giannis is close, but Giannis is also just, he isn't as fun. And they also, as Old Man in the Three, I'm not trying to steal all their shit here, but they talked about how important rivalries are. Um, and we have player rivalries. Like people get like they were saying the rivalries don't exist anymore, which I think I sort of agree with, but I think there's some differences. Like whenever Steph and LeBron play each other, those are rivalries. But those are once again old guys. New stuff, um, and you like a lot of it's like minor and it isn't a thing anymore. Like Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell for the rookie of the year race. Those are a rivalry. The Jazz and Thunder a couple years ago, what 2017, 2018, those are rivalries. But nowadays, what are the rivalries we have? Like Trae Young and the Knicks lasted for a year, and now the Hawks aren't shit anymore, so it doesn't matter. The rivalries have to be with two good teams. Like Kings Warriors is a good rivalry. That's one that's still here. But now the Warriors aren't that good anymore. So how long is that gonna last? And then you have like we say like Celtics Sixers, but what does Embiid always say? Well, no, because the Celtics always kick our ass, which is true. So how much of a rivalry is that? You have Jokic and Embiid, which is cool, and that's like truly just like Jokic doesn't care, but Embiid doesn't like Jokic, which is fun. But I just feel like there isn't enough players that don't like each other nowadays, and it's tough for there to be quote unquote rivalries when everyone is so buddy buddy. and there isn't that many like consistent playoff matchups between teams. Like Golden State Cavs, that rivalry was so peak because it happened 4 years in a row. And like after the first time, we knew, okay, this is a rematch happening. They're levels above the rest of the teams. We know it's gonna happen. So that repetitiveness of the playoff, like it sucked, but it also was just like, okay, sick. Like this is a dope rivalry that we know what happened. Just like Lakers Celtics, like there was a good chance they were gonna meet in like the finals. And like even like Bad Boy Pistons Jordan, multiple playoff matchups against each other. And we just haven't had that consistency of two teams meeting in the playoffs so often in multiple years to the point where it's like, okay, that's so dope. I'm looking forward to see them match up again in the playoffs. Now it's more of, yeah, this would be cool because they're good teams, but there's no animosity there. Like we had a little bit when it was like the Battle of LA, but the Clippers were just always winning the regular season, and then they just didn't do shit either team in the playoffs, and it never matched up in the playoffs. Oh, the one that is like happening now, which is dope, is Devin Booker and Luca. That's a true rivalry, I think. Those those two don't like each other, and the Mavericks bounced them, and they've played, I think, in two playoff series. That's cool. That's a good rivalry because it's true on animosity between two players that clearly respect each other but don't like each other on the court, and that's fun. And that's something that can last for a while. So that's like the only one I can think of that is still consistently between two players slash franchises, that and then Embiid and Jokic. So it'll be interesting to see if we have any big storylines of players not liking each other or things getting physical on the court that between these people that will be around for the league for the next 5 to 7 years that can continue to build. Or maybe in the playoff matchup, we'll see some repeat offenders. Like if we get Knicks Cavs again, or if we happen to get like Timberwolves Nuggets again, that could be actually something. Because yeah, so like if we get some repeat matchups like that, then I think the rivalries and like we can start growing something that will bring the league attention for the following years once the big guys like LeBron, KD, Steph, those guys are finally gone. With that, I'm going to end the podcast. Thank you all for listening. Been a good time. I will be back soon to talk everything happening in basketball and football. So I will talk to you guys next time. Peace.